We're clear on our mission, and that's why we put up those 3 points over and over again.
Eric Adams, a mayor under siege, a nation at a crossroads. New York City, 2025. The marble corridors of power have never been stranger. On the steps of City Hall, Eric Adams stands defiant, the embattled mayor of New York City, battling for both his political survival and his legacy. Allegations of bribery, fraud, and improper foreign entanglements swirl around him like an unrelenting storm. Yet the political tempest that surrounds Adams has extended far beyond the confines of the 5 boroughs, reaching directly into the highest echelons of power in Washington, D.C. and beyond. This is not just a corruption scandal. It is a power struggle that has implicated a former president, a sitting governor, and the very institutions meant to uphold justice in the United States. It is a saga that threatens to reshape the Democratic Party and test the limits of America's rule of law. A tainted administration and a federal indictment. The scandal that threatens to engulf Adams began with whispers, hushed conversations in the halls of New York's legal elite. Then, in September 2024, those whispers erupted into a full-scale political explosion. Eric Adams was federally indicted on charges of bribery, wire fraud, and conspiracy to solicit foreign donations in his campaign. Prosecutors alleged that Adams had received over $100,000 in bribes from Turkish businessmen and officials in exchange for fast-tracking the approval of a Turkish consulate building in Manhattan. The evidence included financial transactions, travel records, and emails that purportedly showed Adams intervening on their behalf with the New York Fire Department to bypass a crucial fire safety inspection. Adams, who had long styled himself as a blue-collar reformer, a former NYPD captain committed to public service, was suddenly cast in the role of a politician for sale. He denied everything. "These allegations are entirely false," he declared at a press conference. "I have spent my life serving this city. I will not be brought down by lies and political retaliation." His reference to political retaliation was not accidental. Adams had increasingly been at odds with the Biden administration over its handling of the migrant crisis, blaming the White House for leaving New York City to fend for itself under an unprecedented influx of asylum seekers. To his allies, the timing of the indictment was no coincidence. Trump's intervention, a Faustian bargain? Yet just months later, in a move that stunned legal analysts and enraged Democratic leaders, the Justice Department under President Donald Trump's new administration directed federal prosecutors to drop the case against Adams in February 2025. The official reasoning? Insufficient evidence. But for many, the reality was much more complicated. According to sources within the Justice Department, the decision was driven by an informal quid pro quo. The Trump administration wanted Adams's cooperation in enforcing federal immigration policies in New York City. With the city's sanctuary status at risk, Adams was seen as a key figure in implementing the administration's crackdown on undocumented immigrants. The move prompted a mass exodus of high-ranking officials within the Department of Justice. Among those who resigned in protest were Assistant U.S. Attorneys Mark Leland and Catherine Reeves, both of whom had worked on the Adams case. Their departure sent a clear signal that the decision was not based on the merits of the case, but rather on political considerations. One of those resignations stood out in particular, that of lead prosecutor Daniel Vaughn, a career official known for his meticulous approach and unwavering commitment to justice. Vaughn not only resigned, he made his disgust known in a scathing letter addressed directly to President Trump, the letter that shook Washington. In his resignation letter, obtained by investigative reporters, Vaughn minced no words. "Mr. President, it is with great sorrow that I tender my resignation from the Department of Justice, effective immediately. The dismissal of the case against Mayor Eric Adams is a gross miscarriage of justice. The evidence we gathered was overwhelming. It was not a matter of political retaliation, nor was it a case of weak prosecution. It was a case of bribery and corruption at the highest levels of municipal government. Your intervention has undermined the very principles of our justice system. To drop this case in exchange for political favors is an insult to the work of every honest public servant in this country. I cannot, in good conscience, continue serving in an institution that has abandoned its duty for the sake of expediency and power. History will remember this moment, and it will not be kind. Respectfully, Daniel Vaughn. The letter, leaked to the press, sent shockwaves through Washington. Trump's allies dismissed it as the rant of a bureaucrat who couldn't accept political reality, but for many legal experts, it was a damning indictment of a Justice Department compromised at the highest level. Democratic outrage and calls for resignation. The fallout was immediate. Leading Democratic figures, including Representative Jerry Nadler, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, called for Adams's resignation, arguing that regardless of whether charges had been dropped, the allegations were too serious to ignore. Even Governor Kathy Hochul, initially hesitant to take a stand, signaled that she would not rule out using her executive power to remove Adams from office. New Yorkers deserve transparency, accountability, and leadership they can trust, Hochul stated in a press conference. This situation is deeply troubling, and I am carefully reviewing all options. The political road ahead. With his approval ratings in freefall, 73% of New Yorkers now hold an unfavorable view of Adams, according to recent polls. His prospects for re-election in 2025 look increasingly dire. Several high-profile challengers, including New York State Senators Zelnor Myrie and Jessica Ramos, as well as City Comptroller Brad Lander and former Governor Andrew Cuomo, have entered the race. Cuomo, in particular, has emerged as a leading contender, branding himself as the only candidate capable of bringing stability back to New York. Despite his own baggage, his resignation in 2021 amid sexual misconduct allegations, he has found a receptive audience among voters disillusioned with Adams. Adams, for his part, remains defiant. "I will not be bullied out of office," he proclaimed at a recent rally. "I am on a mission from God to lead this city." But whether New Yorkers still believe in that mission remains to be seen. The bigger picture, what this means for America. The Eric Adams saga is more than a New York City scandal. It is a stark reminder of how political power and the justice system have become increasingly entangled in America. Trump's willingness to intervene in a corruption case for political gain speaks to the erosion of institutional independence. The mass resignations at the Justice Department highlight the peril of a system where legal outcomes can be dictated by political expediency, rather than the rule of law. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party faces a reckoning of its own. Will it allow Adams to remain in office, or will it take decisive action? And if Adams falls, who rises in his place? The answers to these questions will shape not just the future of New York City, but also the very fabric of American democracy. For now, Eric Adams remains in power. But for how long?